This, St Mary's Church, built in 1135, a Norman church here in the Stour Valley. The river runs a couple of hundred metres away from here. Suffolk on this side, Essex on the far side, the East Country. Location for 3 to 4 important dragon events during the last 1,000 years. Dragons depicted now on walls of churches, on the land itself, in stained glass especially as well. So dragons are rich in fairy and folk tales across the ages. They're good, they're bad, just like people. The sagas and epic poems have many dragons in them. They're good for the imagination, they're good for story, and they're good for sinking culture into place, which helps us when we come to thinking about the climate and the nature crises and their recovery. Dragons have always looked after people. They have hidden treasure and gold away from us, taken away temptation, helped us kind of carry on our normal lives without being drawn into thinking that gold will solve everything. There's a saying that says, when gold gets in our eyes, it causes blindness. And dragons knew this. They were trying to protect ourselves from ourselves. Now, across cultures, right across the world, dragons have importance. They're the national animals of Wales and Bhutan. In Japan, dragons in temple ceilings. In China, important dragon puppets as part of the annual New Year ceremonies, where the word dragon also is the same as the word for crocodile. Elsewhere, dragons in history, the saga of the Volsungs. Sigurd, with the famous sword, kills Fafnir the dragon, who had been hiding the treasure. And poor Fafnir says, well, if you take my treasure, the treasure I've been looking after, it will be the death of you. And it was. Beowulf, dragons appearing in Beowulf, the famous Anglo-Saxon epic poem written in the probably 650s to 700, begins in this way with the famous translation by Seamus Heaney. So, the Speardanes in days gone by, and the kings who ruled them, had courage and greatness. Beowulf comes across the water to Heorot and saves Hrothgar from the depredations of Grendel and the troll mother, and returns home again and rules for 50 years. His helmet is thought to have been the similar, or indeed the same one, as the one found here at Sutton Hoo, in the east part of the territory here. At Sutton Hoo, the helmet with tinned bronze and across the eyebrows, 2 dragons. At the end of his life, it's a dragon who kills Beowulf. Elsewhere, Francis Drake. So Francis Drake, the great figure in UK history, when he's knighted, he puts a dragon on his coat of arms. The Drake is a dragon. And elsewhere we find many people killing dragons in order to achieve some sort of fame, notoriety, sainthood even. George, Michael, Margaret, all become sainted after they've killed famous dragons. Merlin, character in early part of English history, the 9-year-old boy with the green eyes and the black hair, is taken to Vortigern, the king, who wants to kill him and use his blood to save the tower that he's mighty proud of. And Merlin says, no, there's a pond under the tower. And he gives prophecies and says, water shall come and surround the city of London, and beasts shall run through the streets. Looking forward a couple of thousand years, perhaps. And he releases from the pond 2 dragons that fly up, a black dragon, a red dragon, who fight in the air, and the king demands they are delivered to him for his war party. Here in the valley, in the Stour Valley here, 4 dragon episodes. We'll see the first of these as we walk through the south door of the church and look above the north door. The beautiful dragon looking back into the land behind him or her. Sui generis, there's not another dragon shown like this. It's thought that the medieval wall painting dates from 1280, and there the dragon sits and has been for 750 years. Just to the right, we can see up in the corner beyond 2 windows, St. Francis of Assisi preaching to the birds in the tree, the birds and animals, because if we look closer we can see the tree is probably Yggdrasil from the Norse sagas, from the Norse mythology, the world tree, the great ash that holds the world together with the sky. And there's Ratatosk at the bottom. And Francis of Assisi is preaching to the birds, and he's a saint who speaks the language of animals. He understands them, and animals understand him. And indeed, if we look at the setup here in the church, we might assume that he's actually also talking to the dragon, and the dragon is listening and having a play in this game. A couple of episodes on the river just here. In the 1300s, a dragon swims upriver. It's thought it might have come from an egg that Richard the Lionheart brought to the Tower of London, and the egg hatched and the dragon escaped the tower and swam downriver and the Thames up in the North Sea and in our valley here, and came on the land and ate the sheep and attacked the people, as stories often go. And people fired bows and arrows sprang back from the dragon. The dragon retreated to the mere on the other side of the river, to Wormingford Mere, to the worm, W-Y-R-M, the worm of Wormingford, is depicted in the church there, in the stained glass, as a crocodile. So perhaps the dragon, in that case, was a crocodile. 2 other occasions of dragons here in the valley, up on the water meadows, beyond where the river kinks, coming south, kinks sharply to come down this part of the valley at Bures. Beyond there in the water meadows, a black and a red dragon, as Merlin had talked about, fighting over the meadows and over the river at some point in the 1300s. So interestingly, the dragon here, painted on the wall at St. Mary's, predates the stories of the dragons that appeared in the valley. And let us go up to Bures then, on the far side. At this kink of the river is St. Stephen's Chapel. St. Stephen's, a stone chapel with huge stone tomb chests and knights depicted, and stained glass, a small, compact church at the site where Edmund was crowned king of the East Angles. In 855 CE, on Christmas Day, he's coming through this region and his courtiers say, you need to be crowned now in case someone else claims the crown. And so Edmund is crowned here. He's 15 years old. And within 14 more years, he too is peppered with arrows by the Vikings as they kill him, and his body ends up at Bury St. Edmunds. And from here, the pilgrim routes across the territory that head 20-25 miles north to Bury St. Edmunds are all called St. Edmund's Ways. So we can imagine that inspiration of that story is to change people's behaviours to the land, walking back and forth. So what we find at this point is the dragon on the hillside, also put by St. Stephen's Chapel, laid here by Geoffrey Probert, who lives in Bures. This is his land. He put the dragon on the territory, and now the gliders from the airfield at Wormingford, as they circle up and come back from their trips, they use the dragon as their main navigation point. It's now embedded into their culture as well. So this, story and place and culture and nature intertwined. The importance of dragons is they help us tell stories, and stories make places culturally important, and we then look after them. We care for them more because there's a story tying past, current, future thoughts into a particular place. So culture and nature intertwined, dragons helping the climate and nature recovery. How we can get out of these crises is to tell more stories about the land.